I'm here today to talk about my thoughts on what a difference a day makes. So I'd like you to think about if you've got a day that made a difference, a real impact on your life. Or maybe it was an experience or a moment that made you think about your life completely differently. Maybe it was that day that you walked up Table Mountain for the first time and you looked down on Cape Town from a bird's eye view. Or possibly it was that day that you finally managed to ride that bicycle independently and escape from your parents. Everybody has something different, and they've all created us into what we are today. But imagine if you hadn't had any of those experiences. How would your life be today? I work with an organization called Sisanda FunDaytion, and we help create experiences and opportunities for children from disadvantaged and neglected areas. We started 3.5 years ago on a day, completely not expecting to be here today, 3.5 years later. And this day was started by a friend of mine who was working in the informal settlements just outside Cape Town, and she was engaging with a group of kids, and they'd come across some money to be able to do something for Christmas, December time. And she said to the kids, "What do you want for Christmas?" And the whole group came up and unanimously said, "We want to go to the beach." And she explored a little bit further and found out that 9 out of 12 of those children had never been on the beach before. Now let's just remember, we're in Cape Town. And those children were living about 5 kilometers from the closest beach. And they'd never set foot on that sand before. So we got together, we got a whole group of us together, and a much bigger group of kids, and we went off to the beach for the day. And boy, what an experience we had. And that sparked something for a small group of us within there, and we decided, well, let's do that again, and again, and again. And here we are 3.5 years later, and we've done a day like that every month since. And we focus on joy and laughter and fun and just those experiences for children, just to be children for a day. But over time, I think with any organization, you get questioned by others, and you also start challenging yourself to whether you're doing what you say you're doing and whether you're still being meaningful. And we started looking at what difference does a day really make. So when we look at the situation that so many of our children are living in, this is their daily reality. For that little boy, this is his playground. Very few trees, very little greenery, no safe place to play. And if we look at where he lives, this is his house, and he lives there with 37 other children. So can you imagine the amount of personal space that he has to have his own experiences? Can you imagine the people running the orphanage trying to give these children experiences? Can you imagine trying to organize to take out the 37 or 38 children on an outing? They don't have that reality. And then it makes you wonder how these children can create flourishing minds with the possibilities of what their futures could be about, or where they could go in this world. Imagine the first time going on a bus and leaving the areas that you live. If any of you have traveled, think about when you go into a new place and you might choose to take a train rather than an internal flight. And you can look out the window and see this new world that's around you. And if you think for these kids, this is just going into the next suburb. The first time that you go into a forest, into this natural space, and you see how trees come in different shapes and sizes, and leaves have little worms crawling on them. You can see how a fish swims, learning that a fish is not just on your plate or just in the sea. Imagine the conversations that you can have the next day. And then that all-important part of being able to touch nature and feel that you're part of it. Think about the compassion and the empathy that can grow from those experiences. Can you imagine never having been in a restaurant before? And then imagine being in that restaurant and asking somebody asking you what you want, and then them bringing you what you want. That can be a life-changing experience. That wow moment. So who of you, when you reflected back onto your past, remember that wow moment? That's something that changed your reality forever. You know, imagination and creativity, they don't come from a blank canvas. They don't come out of nothing. They come out of experiencing and seeing the world and creating all of that into a new idea. And learning those skills, having chances to engage in different activities that you can learn what you like, what you're good at, and being able to compare yourself to those around you, especially when they're different. To learn your personality, to see the influence. Wow, I can make people laugh. Having the chances to learn what you like, and those things that you would rather avoid. And your creative flair. This was a young boy who was with us on a day, and it was a creative day, for lack of more creative words. And they had the opportunity to make their own clothes, and there was a fashion show, and it was a really wonderful day. And I was taking the care of the orphanage back at the end of the day, and she said to me, wow, I had no idea that those children were creative. And this loving woman had been working with these children in the orphanage for over 5 years. We live in such an amazing country with so many beautiful cultures, with such interesting backgrounds. But if we never have the opportunity to engage with all these different people and to wipe away all those differences and just focus on those things that we have in common, how can we expect people to get on? What do you want to be when you're big? A friend of mine told me about a group of children that they were talking to in a classroom in one of the informal settlements, and they said that question, what do you want to be when you're big? And the majority of the class answered gardeners or cleaners. They had no idea and hadn't been exposed to the fact that there were other opportunities and other things that they could add to that list. If we don't plant the seed, nothing is going to grow. So through all of that, I think we can all understand that the impact that a day really can have on a child's life. One of the areas that we maybe don't often look at is the impact that this engagement can have on adults and the volunteers. If you've never been into the environment that other people live in, you can't imagine the situations that these children are having to grow up with. Or being able to engage with a child for the first time who comes from such a disadvantaged life and who has the saddest stories to tell. And then be able to move beyond that and start engaging and start realizing that the smallest things that you do, just by being there, maybe a smile or a hug or an encouraging nudge towards that super tube, or even just the chance to sit and chat and have a bit of time together. It all makes a difference. And sometimes they take it a little bit further and continue the next day and the next day. This is my friend Nicky. She came on a day 2.5 years ago, and she was awkward and nervous, and therefore so were we, thinking, oh, how is this going to go? And as the day continued and the fun and laughter was had, she started to relax, and she started to really connect with some of the children around her. And that connection continued. And 2.5 years later, she's still working with the same children and helping that same Educare Center. She's helped them get them registered through the formal channels. She's helped to set up feeding schemes. She's thrown Christmas parties and had days out. And she's at the moment, together with the Educare Center and a number of other partners, helping to raise some funds to build them a classroom. My friend Quentin, what a wonderful man. He joined us on a day about 3 years ago. And he was in a group with 3 boys, and one of those boys was Cheswell in the corner with the red shirt. And Cheswell was at that stage in his life. He was 17. He'd been in an orphanage since he was 5. Very, very troubled childhood, and this was starting to impact him. And he was having difficulties with school, and he was about to be asked to leave. And there was a connection on that day. Quentin recognized something about himself in Cheswell. And they decided to get together afterwards, and Quentin helped Cheswell to find his place in life. To the point until last year, Quentin adopted Cheswell. And Cheswell's life has changed dramatically. And both of them now continue to give their time and engage with children from less advantaged areas. And Cheswell, the young man, says, if you can't give anything else, at least you can give a piece of your mind or a piece of your experience. So I think he really understands what a difference a day makes. So just those opportunities to be able to connect with new people in new places and hopefully in a beautiful environment can create that moment for you. It can create that memory that'll sit with you forever. Sometimes it can create a dream and a hope for the future. Other times it can create an unexpected connection. And that really makes me see what a difference a day makes. Thank you.